we're only starting to come to understand the impact of these app-based companies, especially in cities, right? And in particular, when you talk about car share, Uber, Lyft, Via, the others, but mainly Uber, they're the 800-pound gorilla. You know, what you find is that they are basically siphoning off all of this money out of the activity of providing urban transportation, and they're trying to push off all the responsibility and liability that really they should bear as the ones profiting off of the activity onto others. Who are they pushing it off onto? They're pushing it off onto, obviously, the people who get hurt in traffic, who they say, oh, look to those drivers. They're the ones you have to look to. They're all independent contractors. You know, they're also trying to push it off onto the people who have to live amidst all these cars for hire in this space that congest our streets and cause so many injuries and deaths. I represent many people who've been struck by cars for hire, including, and especially lately, operators of e-hail cars for hire. And what you find is this Orwellian picture where you bring in the corporate representatives to question them about what sort of role they play in managing how the car is operated, and they say they have absolutely nothing to do with it. Well, I've got this one case where my client was proceeding completely lawfully on Richmond Terrace in Staten Island, and the driver makes an illegal U-turn right into him and hits him in the bike lane. Well, then what we found out is that he had a dash cam inside his car, which was recording everything that he could see and everything you could hear inside the cabin of his car. And you know what he heard just before he made that illegal U-turn on Richmond Terrace right in front of the Staten Island Ferry Terminal and the police station on Staten Island? Was make a left turn and pick up Ariadne. You know, this robotic voice coming out of the Uber app telling him to make a U-turn that was clearly illegal with a sign right there. So when you ask these representatives, they're like, well, we don't regulate the drivers. We're not responsible for them being safe. But you know what? They have these inputs that are coming to people while they're driving on the phone. If you're an Uber driver, you're getting trip requests. Oh, where's the next trip? Where's that going? I should sign up for that one. Maybe I should go a little faster so I can sign up for the next trip. Or they're getting a voice, an audio input telling them turn left here and pick up Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith, right? And then you go and you bring the corporate representative in and they say, well, we have nothing to do with that. Those are just decisions that individuals make. And we may be making 50% of the money there is to be made off of transporting someone within the city, but that doesn't mean we're going to have any responsibility whatsoever for the effects of having all those drivers out there following the audio cues and the visual cues and the pop-ups and all the rest of the other incentives and rules that these e-hail services have for their drivers. You know, it's very interesting because they thought they could draw the line and say, nope, they're independent contractors, we're not responsible. Well, that would be the easiest and most obvious ways to skin that cat of e-hail operator responsibility for harm caused by e-hail drivers and activity. But there's other ways. The ways I've been exploring is looking at exactly what they're doing. They're distracting the drivers with the app. They're incentivizing the drivers to cut corners by flashing in front of them the opportunity to take the next ride before they even are finished with the one that they're on. They're removing any kind of human interaction between the drivers and the passengers. You know, to them, it's a positive experience. It's seamless. No need for an Uber driver and passenger even to speak to each other. But back in the day when we had regular yellow taxi cabs that were serving the whole city, a driver would have an interaction with a passenger. You want to be left over here? No, over there? Oh, wait a minute, don't open a door. There's a cyclist coming, right? These are the kinds of human interactions that made those old school forms of cars for hire much safer than some seamless system where people in the back of the car think they're not responsible for anything that happens, and people in the front of the car are just chasing after that next fare. there's really many problems with this e-hail system, and I'm not saying they should be banned, but they ought to be programmed with some concern for safety, and not just the safety of the people in the car, but the people around the car who conceivably would be hurt, or foreseeably are hurt, day in and day out. So we need much closer regulation of these e-hail services.